We have no problem calling evil what it is. When innocent people suffer, we call it wrong. But in Matthew 2, children are killed and God doesn't stop it. Why? When Herod realized that the wizards from the east had tricked him, he was furious. He gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its neighborhood who were 2 years and younger. This was done in accordance with what he had learned from the wizards about the time when the star had appeared. In this way, what the prophet Jeremiah had said came true. A sound is heard in Ramah, the sound of bitter weeping. Rachel is crying for her children. She refuses to be comforted, for they are dead. Matthew 2, verses 16 to 18. A king heard of a child who might threaten his power. So he responds the only way he knows how, with violence. And children are killed, mothers are weeping, homes are destroyed. No miracle stops him, and God doesn't intervene. What do you do with that? Because if you look at this moment, it looks like evil has won. But that's only if you stop the story there. Because at the same time, a child survives, a family escapes, history quietly moves forward. And the reason why this creates a tension inside you is because it challenges how we believe God should behave. Because if God is all loving and all powerful, wouldn't He, stop the killing before it even began? And that's not how God operates. He doesn't stop Herod from hearing about Jesus, He doesn't stop Herod from forming his plan. Instead, He warns Joseph, He moves the family, He preserves the child, not by removing every act of evil, but by ensuring evil doesn't get the last word. Matthew doesn't directly answer this question in the verse, but he gives us a good clue. A sound is heard in Ramah, the sound of bitter weeping. Rachel is crying for her children. She refuses to be comforted, for they are dead. This originally comes from Jeremiah 31. This is during the Babylonian exile, where Israel is being conquered and children are being killed, families are weeping, and Rachel is a symbolic mother for the nation because the nation feels like it's collapsing. Rachel is experiencing raw grief. But understand, Jeremiah 31 is not isolated. It is one of the most hope filled verses in the Bible. Because at the same time, God says, they will return from the land, from the enemy. There is hope for your future. And later, the new covenant. But wait, Matthew only quoted the weeping part. Why? I feel like that's intentionally misleading. That's because Matthew expects you to know the rest. Matthew isn't saying, hey, look, prophecy fulfilled. He is saying we are in that exact same part of the story. See the parallels? In Jeremiah's time, children were lost. Israel was weeping. Evil feels like it's won, but then God creates a new covenant. In Jesus' time, children were killed, mothers, families were weeping. Evil feels like it's winning, but this time, the story isn't finished. Showing you that this tragedy, the killing of children, isn't the end, but the beginning of a new restoration. But that raises a question. Where is God in all of this? Because in the chaos, it doesn't look like intervention. It doesn't look like control, power, nor protection. You know what it looks like? It looks like silence. It looks like neglect. But Matthew is trying to show you something. Not that God is absent in the suffering, but that his presence doesn't always look like intervention. God's presence is not only seen when he stops evil, but when he holds the story. God doesn't waste suffering, even when humans create it. It's different from God is evil, meaning he causes all suffering, and it's different from suffering is random and pointless. Instead, it's saying evil is real, but it doesn't get the final word. Herod, acting out of fear, is real evil. Families suffered. That's real loss. But Jesus survived. That's real victory. But please, don't get mistaken. This doesn't mean that suffering is good. The killing of children is evil. It does not make it morally okay just because something good comes out of it later. Redemption does not erase the horror. These mothers are still weeping for their lost children, and in scripture, that grief is acknowledged, not overwritten. There's a reason why Rachel is weeping and not explaining. But here's what makes this different: God doesn't stand outside of suffering, He enters into it. He doesn't just watch the story unfold, He steps into it. And we all know where the story goes and where it leads: the cross. God doesn't stop suffering, but He absorbs it Himself. And now, a moment of silence. Remember, not everything works out the way we expect, and some things in this world are genuinely horrific. Faith doesn't mean pretending otherwise, it means believing that suffering doesn't get the final word.